Lankesh, 1935 to 2000, was a renowned Kannada writer, poet, journalist, and filmmaker. After completing his MA in English from Mysore University, he began his career as a lecturer but soon turned to full-time writing. His first story collection Kereya Niranu Kerege Cheli gained wide acclaim. Known for his bold voice and progressive ideals, Lankesh explored themes like power, ego, injustice, and human nature in his works. He also founded the popular tabloid Lankesh Patrike and won the National Award for Best Direction for his film Pallavi, based on his novel Biruku. The story The Gardener reflects his unique ability to weave philosophy, storytelling, and social insight into simple rural settings. H.S. Raghavendra Rao, the translator, is a noted Kannada scholar, critic, and translator. He has taught at Kannada University, Hampi, and other prestigious institutions. His translations include works by Eric Fromm, Jiddu Krishnamurti, and Charles Baudelaire. He is well known for retaining the emotional depth and cultural authenticity of original texts in his translations. His English version of The Gardener captures the philosophical undertone and narrative strength of Lankesh's original work with great sensitivity. 1. Introduction to the Old Gardener. The story opens in a grove near Chennarayapatna. We are introduced to an old man who is described with poetic reverence and symbolic strength. He is tall, grey-haired, with a beak-like nose, muscular arms, a spade in one hand, and a newspaper tucked under his other arm. He is more than just a labourer. He is an observer, thinker, and moral compass, a labourer, overseer, and philosopher, all rolled into one. His presence is marked not merely by his appearance but also by the wisdom and native intelligence that his eyes reflect. There is a subtle sense of mystery and depth around this old man, hinting that he carries with him more than just agricultural knowledge. He carries experience, understanding, and perhaps, a hidden story. 2. Arrival at the plantation. The old man arrives at the plantation one day after having walked hundreds of miles. He is hired by the owner after a brief exchange of words. There is no elaborate introduction or formality. The owner, looking for someone exactly like him, accepts him immediately. From the moment of his arrival, the gardener proves immensely helpful. His knowledge of agriculture is profound. He not only understands the technicalities of farming but also understands the psychology and needs of the workers. The petty thefts in the garden stop, discipline is restored, and harmony is re-established. 3. Transformation of the estate. Under the gardener's influence, the plantation undergoes a significant transformation. The output improves, and consequently, the income increases. With this financial success, the estate expands far beyond its original 10 acres. What was once a modest property turns into a vast and thriving farm. The lifestyle of the owner changes dramatically. Wealth flows in, but with it, a moral deterioration begins. He becomes lethargic, detached from hard work, and increasingly engrossed in luxuries and indulgence. He develops social prestige and gains influence both in his native village and in the nearby town. 4. Moral decay of the owner. While the plantation flourishes outwardly, the owner's personal life spirals into decline. He becomes caught in a web of social engagements, vice, and vanity. The wealth that was meant to provide security and stability instead introduces chaos and superficiality. His wife watches this transformation with increasing discomfort. The very success that they once dreamed of now feels like a curse. Her husband, who once lived a simple and decent life, is now surrounded by suspicion and indulgence. She begins to suspect infidelity and moral collapse. His new friends, social standing, and wealth seem to have given him more opportunities for vice than virtue. 5. The wife's inner conflict. The owner's wife is unable to decide whether the gardener's arrival was a boon or a bane. On one hand, he brought prosperity and harmony to the land. On the other, his influence appears to have given her husband a reason to retreat from responsibility, allowing him to wallow in his newfound status and affluence. The wife's life becomes a puzzle, filled with unanswered questions. She becomes confused, worried, and isolated. One day, when she is in a particularly troubled state, the gardener approaches her with the understanding and empathy of someone who seems to know her inner world too well. 6. A conversation between the gardener and the owner's wife. In a quiet moment, as the sun sets and golden rays filter through the trees, the gardener invites the wife to sit with him. He offers her tender coconuts, symbolic of peace and comfort. They sit on the embankment of the well, a place of depth and stillness. Without any direct accusations or judgments, the gardener begins telling her a story, an allegorical narrative meant to reflect and perhaps heal the turmoil in her heart. This story becomes the heart of the entire piece and is layered with profound moral and philosophical insights. 7. The Tale of Tamanna and Basava. The gardener narrates the story of two men, Tamanna and Basava. Tamanna is a talented poet and landowner with 10 acres of fertile wetland. Basava is his rival. Their conflict begins with land, but it escalates into an existential rivalry. Basava tries to compete with Tamanna by cultivating his land more diligently, wearing lavish jewelry, and building a grand mansion. He hires people to praise him and gather admiration. Yet, none of this gives him peace or respect. Tamanna, on the other hand, shifts his focus from material possessions to art. He begins composing songs that subtly ridicule Basava's cruelty and arrogance. His fame as a poet spreads far and wide. Critics and scholars come to him. His fame grows, and Basava burns with envy. 8. The theme of art versus power. This section of the story explores the central theme of art versus material power. While Basava tries to accumulate material wealth to establish his superiority, Tamanna uses creativity, poetry, and artistic expression as his weapon. The world celebrates Tamanna for his talent and depth. In contrast, Basava's house, despite its grandeur, is described as dull and empty. He lacks the cultural and intellectual richness that Tamanna possesses. Eventually, he tries to gain legitimacy by inviting artists and scholars to his mansion. But the essence remains missing. The story illustrates how genuine art and moral integrity hold more power than wealth, status, or external validation. 9. Metaphorical implications. The tale of Tamanna and Basava is not just a parable. It mirrors the lives of the characters in the gardener's real world. The gardener himself represents Tamanna, wise, detached from materialism, and devoted to a deeper truth. The owner, now rich but morally declining, reflects Basava's fate. The more he tries to dominate life through wealth, the more he loses meaning and character. The wife, struggling between the old simplicity and new chaos, stands at a moral crossroads. The act of storytelling becomes a metaphorical bridge between reality and reflection. The gardener's tale is both an explanation and a gentle warning, a means to open the wife's eyes to the inner decay hidden beneath external success. 10. Philosophical reflection and the gardener's insight. The old man concludes the story with a deep philosophical statement, "That's when I realized how strange human nature can be." This marks the true essence of the story. It is a reflection on human desires, ego, the craving for recognition, and the need for meaning. Tamanna, in the end, even chooses death, not as surrender, but as a final assertion of his superiority. He realizes that as long as he exists, Basava will compete. But if he departs, leaving behind only his art, he will win eternally. This is the ultimate victory, one beyond the physical, achieved through renunciation and transcendence. Through this fable, the gardener subtly explains the futility of materialism and the tragic comedy of human ego. The wife, listening to this tale, is given a mirror to her own life. Though the gardener never directly criticizes her husband, the implication is clear. The pursuit of shallow prestige can hollow a man from within, just as it did Basava. Conclusion. The Gardener, by P. Lankesh, is more than just a story about an old man who helps a plantation thrive. It is a layered allegory of human desires, moral decay, artistic resilience, and the eternal conflict between inner truth and outward success. The character of the gardener serves as a moral conscience, calm, wise, detached, yet deeply involved. His tale within the tale is a brilliant literary device, used not only to illuminate the inner tensions of the plantation family but also to present a universal truth about life. The narrative flows like a folktale but strikes at the heart of modern dilemmas: ambition without ethics, success without substance, and power without wisdom. Through the old man's story of Tamanna and Basava, Lankesh reminds us that true legacy lies not in property or status, but in the values we live by and the truth we create.